So now we continue with the waste management, and now because waste generation is what we did in the first part, we continue with the next part, and that is the science, teaching and research laboratory of waste. So that is what we are seeing now, is how we are able to manage the waste is what we are going to learn in this part. So first thing is, as the country is progressing, this one is the waste which is generated due to the science and technology, or the laboratory which we are having, some research laboratories what we are having. Whatever waste they produce is a different kind of waste, so that doesn't come into the normal waste, it's a different kind of waste. So that is what we are seeing now. As the country is progressing, more and more teaching institutes and research laboratories are coming up. Their waste material is of varied nature: broken or discarded glass apparatus, containment machines, waste chemicals, animal and plant waste from biology laboratories and from the culture rooms. All such waste need to be properly disposed of, either in dug into outpits or burned in special enclosures. See, whenever you do some kind of a research, in the researches you don't know exactly that what kind of the outcome you are going to get, and that outcome causes a lot of hazardous substances also. And you need to even test some of the things on plants and animals, so that animals and plants which are going to be the unnecessary prey of that particular research, the ones will always be need to be discarded later on. So समझो किसी माइस के ऊपर एक particular vaccine try किया है और वो माइस मर गया, तो of course you need to discard it in a proper manner, because you don't know that what will be the outcome of that particular medicine which is being imparted into the why did that rat die, because it may cause much more infection future. So that's why you need to discard them in a proper manner by digging out into the soil and then placing them inside or burning them off. Disposal of discarded radioactive material needs special care. Yeah, radioactive material, they are going to keep on giving radiations, and that radiations are so harmful that they can cause even cancer. So that's why it is very important that the radioactive material, any laboratory working with radioactive material, that radioactive disposal should be very, very proper. In fact, that is normally done even in lead boxes, so that the radiation is not spread through them. Any carelessness in it can be a threat to the human health. A well-known case was recently reported in Delhi when the radioactive cobalt-60 was found to have been passed on to the waste dealer, who had dumped it in the open in a well-inhabited colony. Some affected humans badly suffered from it. So it was this case that cobalt-60 was discarded by some company in a particular area which was there, and there it came in hands of some people, and these particular things caused a huge amount of burning and all to the people who tried to use them or touch them. The next is method of disposal. So now we see the management part, this method of disposal of the waste. So first is, the waste are of so many types that disposals also require different suitable methods. These methods mainly include segregation, dumping, composting, drainage, treatment of effluents, incineration, scrubbers, and electrostatic precipitator. So these are the different kinds of the thing what you can do for the disposal of the machine. So you'll see one by one all these one in detail. First one is segregation. Yeah, most important is segregation. If the waste are segregated, like you already have two dustbin right now, one wet and one dry. Yeah, why is that so? Because you want that the wet ones which are there, which will be mainly consisting of the vegetable peels and all, can be used up as a manure and can be used up to make some kind of a, if you have a vermicomposting kind of a thing, it can be easily converted into manure and something useful. Whereas the one which is the dry waste, which will be plastics and things like that, that can be discarded separately. So accordingly, segregation plays a very important part, because if they would have not been segregated, what will happen? The thing which could have been used up by some process will be thrown in waste. So we don't want to just waste the resources in this way. So we see over here that segregation means separating the refuse mainly in three categories, that is reusable, degradable and non-degradable. Okay, one is reusable, you can reuse them. Okay, like clothes, you can reuse them. Okay, so reusable waste includes items such as paper, that is newspaper, old books, discarded exercise books, etc. Can you imagine the bulk of examination answer papers piling up in tons and tons of weight? All such paper can be recycled. The metallic components also can be separated and reused. Yes, the stapler pins and all which is there, it is also going to be reused. Degradable, such as organic waste, like vegetables and fruit peeling, can be decomposed into useful manure. Such degradation involves the activity of microorganisms, so it is also called biodegradation. And lastly is the non-degradable parts, such as certain plastics can be dumped. So these are the things. Nowadays even the plastic is useful because they are using these plastic in form of granules. Means they take the plastic waste and they convert it into smaller bits and add it to the material which is going to be used for making the roads. So while making the roads they use the plastic. So this is how even the non-degradable part can be useful. The next is the dumping. So the non-degradable waste can be put at certain places in special dug up bits away from human habitation. So yes, the next kind of the management of the waste will be dumping. We can easily dump this particular thing somewhere. So dumping basically can be used as landfills or places where they are not going to be too much of habited and they are going to dug a particular place and they are going to dump that material inside this over there. In fact, I just remember one more thing, that is where if you talk about dumping, the dumping sometimes is also very helpful. Like for example, the complete Mahim Nature Park. The Mahim Nature Park what we have in Mumbai is actually a dumping. It was originally a dumping yard. It was a dumping yard where all the material was dumped, and then this particular dumping yard slowly and steadily it became quite a fertile land, and right now it's almost like a forest over there. So you can see that this is how the dumped area, the dumping area is getting converted into a very good kind of a natural nature's place. So even another one what we see is one of the garden which is there behind In Orbit Mall, which is also originally a dumping yard. So yes, you can convert the dumping places into very good later on into a very good kind of gardens, because they are having good amount of manure in it, fertilized in it, so the soil becomes fertilized. Composting means putting the waste organic matter to decay so that it can be used for fertilizing the agricultural land. So yeah, you can use the waste for composting and then you can make manure after it. So that is the agricultural land ke liye. So for this, the preparation of compost is a trench of about 5 meter long and 1.5 meter wide and 1.5 meter deep is being dug. A big trench is dug, and a layer of well-mixed refuse of waste is spread in it of about 30 centimeter thickness. And this layer is fully wetted with a watery mixture of cow dung and some mud. And a second layer of mixed refuse is spread over the first layer till the heap rises to project above the ground level by about half a meter. So this way layers are being made of the refuse and the soil and the refuse and the soil and so on, and accordingly you will be having this particular kind of a trench. The setup is left as such for about 3 months. Then the trench is opened, this material is taken out and rearranged in conical heaps and covered by earth. About 50 to 60 days later, the mass called compost is ready for application in the cultivation field or in garden, flower beds, etc. So yes, this is how you are converting the waste into a compost. So that is the compost. Such town refuse compost is becoming quite popular. For example, in Delhi, what is known as Okhla Khada is mainly for garbage, food waste and human sewage in night soil. And one of the latest method is to use dry composting toilets. This is a hygiene and cost-effective solution to human waste disposal. So that is how the composting is done in as one of the method of waste management. The next one is drainage. Yeah, a proper system of drains is required to carry away all kind of fluid waste from other than sewage. If not so done, the watery fluids would accumulate in pits and puddles and will become the breeding place for mosquitoes and other harmful insects. So yeah, it is necessary that we should have a proper drainage system or sewage, apart from the sewage part, apart from the toilet and all part, there should be a proper drainage. We can easily understand this thing. अगर बारिश होती है और अगर drain system proper नहीं है, what will happen? There will be water logging, and what will happen with the water logging? There will be causes for the mosquito breeding places and the infections to take place. That's why a proper drainage system is required for all the watery fluids to be drained out, and there is no accumulation of the same. The treatment of effluents before discharge. So the next way is the treatment of the effluents before it is discharged into any water body. It is very much necessary that whatever is being thrown, if at all there is any kind of the waste which is being directly thrown into the water body, it is necessary that this has to be done with the help of a treatment. You need to treat that thing properly first, only then you need to go for it. Otherwise you will lead to what we say as a very good problem for water pollution. So first thing is, the industrial and municipal waste waters are treated in effluent treatment plants before disposing them off in water bodies. This is done in three parts: primary treatment, separation of large debris by sedimentation in tanks. So first thing is that whole thing is put into a sedimentation tank where the large heavier bodies are going to settle down. So automatically what is remaining will be only those particles which are mixed thoroughly inside the water, effluent water. Next is the secondary treatment. The wastewater is pumped into oxidation pump with microorganisms, bacteria, algae, etc. Oxidize the organic matter, releasing carbon dioxide, and a solid precipitate material sludge is produced that can be used as manure. So next thing what they do is they are going to add a lot of bacteria and algae into that organisms into that particular liquid, so that they are going to do the process of, you can say, the scavenging process, or you can say the oxidation is going to take place, and they are going to convert that particular thing into a waste, and carbon dioxide is going to be released. So the decomposition, they are basically decomposing bacteria, the bacteria which are going to do the process of decomposition of those material. So that decomposition is done by the bacteria and the algae, and what is going to be left out will be settled down as a sludge which can be used as manure. And finally is the tertiary treatment. Involves removal of dissolved chemicals, metals or other pathogens. Even the wastewater is discharged into natural waters or is used for irrigation. So next is the tertiary treatment, where the removal of the chemicals and metals, and then that water is being discarded, or it is going to be even used for irrigation purposes, or it may be discharged into as a natural water like rivers and lakes, but otherwise even used for irrigation requirements. The next kind of management is incineration. Incineration means burning. So when you burn off the substance which is to be thrown out, when you want to discard it and you burn it off, then it is incineration. Incineration serves three main purposes. So incineration is a disposal of waste by burning, and incineration serves three main purposes. First is, it reduces the volume of the waste. See, the moment you burn a thing, like suppose you got a big wood piece and you burn it. So when you burn it, it becomes small ashes of maybe handful. So automatically you can see it has reduced the volume significantly. Reduces weight of the waste. Yes, even the weight of the waste is reduced to a lot of extent. That's why it is reducing the volume, it is reducing the waste, and also renders the toxic waste into less toxic or even non-toxic waste. So many times it is seen that if some toxic wastes are there, if they are burnt off, like I told you about the flaring system, that whatever the chemical are there, they are going to be burnt off. So such things. So when you are doing the incineration of certain things, like many of the it's biological waste, like you have the हॉस्पिटल वेस्ट, लाइक द वुंड अगर है तो उसके बाद में जो द ड्रेसिंग जो किया है उसको हम लोग डिस्कार्ड करेंगे, तो उसको अगर जला दिया, क्यों? because they have got a lot of infections in them, right? So those hospital waste and all can be used, when be burned off, and what will happen is that it will render that particular waste harmless. Okay, that is the main thing, that it is rendering the toxic waste harmless or reduces the toxicity of that waste. So the impact of incineration, what is the drawback of this thing is that releases fumes and harmful substances. Yes, it gives you a lot of air pollution. When you burn something, carbon dioxide is going to be produced and some kind of toxic waste is also produced. So that is the main problem, that is the impact of incineration. So what can be the precautions for that? First of all, incineration should be carried out at a very high temperature, because at very high temperatures, the amount of gases will be generated out will be automatically harmless. So first thing is the temperature will be very high. Secondly, should be equipped with pollution control devices. There should be some pollution control devices over there. So whatever is the fumes which are given out, there can be a chimney system from which the smoke which is given out is automatically filtered out before it is being discarded. So this is how you are going to do this particular kind of the process of controlling, or we can say the pollution control devices should be installed over there. Incinerators should be installed away from the residential area. So wherever these incinerators are there, these places where you are going to burn off this particular substances, they need to be placed far off from the residential premises so that they are not giving any harm to the people around them. The leftover after incineration contains about 25% of waste residue as an ash. The ash should be disposed as landfills. Landfills. Yeah, ash can be disposed of a landfill, so that's why again it's an advantage that you are able to discard that particular waste also at the end of the whole thing. So what are the advantages of incineration? The ash left over occupies much less landfill space. Secondly, residual bottom ash can be used for recovery of some metals also. Yeah, sometimes it happens that you are burning of the whole thing and the metallic part is going to remain as a residue. That metallic part can be reused or recycled. So yeah, that is an advantage, that it can be helping us to separate the metal waste from the non-metal waste. Electricity can be generated from the heat released during burning. Yes, this is also a possibility, that if at all when you are taking the burning process can be at a high temperature, and accordingly you can produce steam at that time, and you can run a turbine and accordingly have the electricity generated. The next kind of management is using scrubbers. Now scrubbers are basically devices which are going to help you to clean the air which is being passing through. So जो भी air उन लोग discard कर रहे हैं, that discarded air or that is this pass through a particular device which is called as a scrubber, which is going to trap the dust particles in it. So that is how it is. Scrubber is basically devices to remove gaseous and particulate air pollutants. In these, the air is passed through a dry or wet packaging material. So there will be a dry or wet packaging material. Packaging material is nothing but a porous material through which the gases will be coming out. So the gases which is coming out will entrap, the porous material will entrap the solid part, that is the waste part, and the gases which will be given out will be free from those particular dusts. So they are given a diagrammatic representation of the typical scrubber. The air passing out of the scrubber is dust-free, clean, as well as free from certain gaseous pollutants which get dissolved in the wet packaging. So in this way, the scrubber, wherever they are used, they are going to make this particular air which is being given out quite pure. So this can be used in, this is maximum cases they are used in industries where they want to discard some particular kind of gases at the end of the process, and before they send out pass out the gases, they are going to pass this through scrubbers. So these scrubbers are going to help in discarding the waste in a proper manner, the air in a proper manner. So to reduce the particulate air pollution. The next one and the last one over here is the electrostatic precipitator. The dirty air containing particulate is passed through a chamber containing electrically charged plates. The particles may be naturally electrically charged and they pass through the charged plates of the precipitator. They get collected on the plates carrying opposite charge and the clean gas passes out. The electrostatic can remove up to 90% of the particulate matter from thermal plants. So this is a typical kind of a thing wherein they are First of all, using only in places where the charge there, where the particulate pollution which is going to be there, their particles are going to be charged, and with their charge they use electrostatic, so they are using static electricity over here. So क्या करेंगे, एक जगह पे charge body रहेगा, positive charge रहेगा, they know that the particles which are there will be negatively charged, so they are going to get attracted to the positive charge particles over the positive charge rods over there, and accordingly the air which is given out will be free from the particulate pollution. So this is a typical kind of a thing wherein it is normally used for thermal power plants, because the thermal plant, the heat which is generated is so high that it is called the friction, due to the friction of the the particles over there, they are going to get charged, and that charge is being identified and it is being passed through a precipitator, electrostatic precipitator, which will attract the negative or the positive charge particles, and accordingly the air which is given out by that thing will be free from these particles. So this was the end of the chapter waste generation and management. A very easy chapter, and you can easily go through this thing. It's a very easy chapter. Okay.